The more I've gotten into gaming, and the more I've enjoyed certain series, the more I've been interested to go back and play some of the older titles. The problem is that I don't have access to many of them, and for the longest time I thought I may never experience the ones I was interested in. But in an incredibly lucky twist, and thanks to two of my friends, I was given the opportunity to play through many incredible games that have stood the test of time. Now, the Wii U wasn't exactly known for its original releases, but it did have a vast collection of legacy content through the Virtual Console. I had really stacked up on my selection, and one such series I made sure to cover was Pikmin. Pikmin is just a fun concept. Having to control an army of Pikmin in real time, it also proved to be a nice showcase for the GameCube's capabilities. Seeing so many characters on screen at once was a pretty unique concept and must have taken some effort from the developers to conserve on resources. The game consists of commanding your Pikmin to complete certain tasks, and because specific tasks take a specific amount of time in Pikmin to accomplish, you are essentially incentivized to multitask. The idea behind this series is very fun, but I have to admit, I did have a hard time at first. The timing of things, topped off with the fear of losing some of my Pikmin, made things a little hard to get used to. Once it came to Pikmin 3 though, it finally clicked. I'm not exactly sure how or why, but Pikmin 3 really nailed the concept in a digestible way. So Pikmin is a very inventive series that seems to be getting a lot of well-deserved hype and attention through the next upcoming installment, Pikmin 4. The Legend of Zelda franchise has, on multiple occasions, taken the limitations of the hardware it's been made on, and ran with it. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, especially, follows this to a T. The developers utilized the low-resolution 2D textures the game would need to be built around, and crafted a very cartoony and graphic style that would be perfectly suited for that situation. And the game holds up all the better for it. It was also the most open-feeling Zelda at the time, with the addition of the Great Sea. This has led to the game feeling very vast and explorable as you naturally encounter new islands and treasures. It must take a lot to ensure that a game like that feels balanced, especially under such a short amount of development time. The Wind Waker was such a wonderful take on the Zelda format. The next major entry in this series, though, took sort of the opposite approach, as its art style was more gritty and grounded in reality. Twilight Princess, like Wind Waker, was a bit of a risk, but one that, at least in my opinion, paid off in a lot of ways. It worked in taking itself seriously, and one thing that was unexpected for me was just how lush and ambient it was even compared to other games like it. In places, it has this homey atmosphere that is somehow aided by the art style too. And Zelda: The Minish Cap, which released around a similar time as the other two, was yet another shining example of what the Zelda series can accomplish, even on a weaker handheld. It even brought its own new ideas and mechanics to the table through stuff like the shrinking mechanic. Overall, the Zelda series often gives you a unique range of emotions, while just being a non-stop, unforgettable experience. Now we transition into Metroid, which is my absolute favorite gaming series. What sets Metroid apart from even most other gaming series in general is its heavy emphasis on isolation. Super Metroid gives off the feeling of being alone at night in your dimly lit house. It's familiar enough to not feel too threatening, but it's the fear of what you may run into and getting lost that keeps you on your toes. And the warm, lonely feeling you get when you're falling asleep is embodied in the music. Metroid Fusion has a definitely different, yet still very effective take on these feelings. Instead of an organic labyrinthian planet, you're on an industrial laboratory deep in space. Throughout the game, you're under the vigilant and stressful presence of the SAX, which is Samus's suit infected by the parasite known as the X. The X parasites are honestly one reason I believe story matters more to Metroid than people give it credit for. It's just such a brilliant contextualization of a gameplay mechanic. Now, along with Metroid Fusion, a remake of the original NES Metroid from 1986 was released on the Game Boy Advance, Metroid Zero Mission. This game was a key component in getting me to fall in love with pixel art, through its subtle, yet noticeable, 80s inspiration. It honestly feels like this is what they would have come up with had they been working with more powerful hardware at the time. It just feels so authentic to the vision of the original. Once it came time to transition the series into 3D, Nintendo outsourced the project to an out-of-house developer, Retro Studios. And they made 3 of the greatest works in the gaming industry. It must take so much foresight to create a Metroid game, and not every developer has that special touch. But the Prime games absolutely nail it. I can't believe they only priced this at $20 on the Wii U eShop. Each game in the trilogy follows the same format, yet has its own identity. And with the recent release of Metroid Prime Remastered on Switch, Metroid seems to have a bright future ahead of it. And hopefully at least Prime 2 also gets the remastered treatment at some point. So as you may have gathered, the Wii U didn't have the best original lineup of games to its name. With no real heavy-hitting 3D Mario game, and no original Zelda up until the very end, it struggled to captivate people. There were definitely a few exceptions, but interestingly enough, most of them were from more obscure series, and it was certainly an incredible way to experience loads of legacy content. Anyways, thanks to Scorch-SkittishMCJames and GamerCap231. Speak words, do stuff, and I'll catch you again later.